Hello there, Site 42 staff, as well as those of you from the greater SCP Foundation community. Today we are joined by the director of Keter Labs, the YouTube channel and independent production studio, Zach Alona. Get yourself started. Tell the Site 42 staff, as well as the greater SCP Foundation community who's joining us here, give them your opening pitch for Containment Breach the movie.
All right, yeah, getting right into it. No problems with that, because we are here to produce a full-length theatrical SCP Foundation movie, hopefully.
Yes.
My name's Zach. I'm the director of the film To Be, and the director of the 10-minute proof of concept short film that we produced in order to sort of enhance the pitch a little bit, and that has had really strong reception so far on our channel. If anyone hasn't checked it out yet, I highly recommend it, and let us know your feedback. But yes, the whole reason why we even produced that film in the first place was to sort of make the case for SCP on the big screen. And we've got a good handful of video essays also on our channel that kind of break down the challenges of working with big budget SCP media and cinema and content, and why we haven't seen something like that yet, and how this could, possibly, hopefully, be the moment that sort of breaks the door open for more opportunities to produce higher level SCP content.
It's very important news that you're doing there, because although I can yap about these all day as a streamer and shorts content creator, shorts and streams are only viewed by so many people. The main event video essay is the preferred YouTube format. And so by putting this information to the proper package, you're doing gangbusters and helping the SCP community as well to understand what I've been yelling about all these years. And so I appreciate the help in that matter.
Yeah, I mean, we've been following your channel for years, and it's a very similar impetus for Site 42. So we're very happy to collaborate on this, and a little later we'll maybe make we will make a big announcement as far as that is concerned. So excited to do that.
First questions first about said movie. Why choose SCP Containment Breach the game as your focus as opposed to any other SCP story? What other story did you have in mind for a movie before you settled on basing it off the famous game?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of reasons, and it was a very difficult decision when we were conceptualizing, this project and what story might make a good feature film. So just the fact that, I grew up with Containment Breach, I was kind of into SCP beforehand, starting like very early after it first got started, but Containment Breach was like the cultural moment where SCP, I feel like, really kind of leveled up in the collective consciousness. So it was the introduction to SCP for a lot of people who have been fans for a decade plus. That sort of that was their introduction. So when we're thinking about this project and kind of trying to bring SCP into a bigger scope and bring it into the conversation in terms of like cinema and feature films, it just seemed kind of like a natural fit for an adaptation of the video game to be sort of the foundational project for getting a feature-length SCP movie off the ground, because it's got the name recognition. Obviously all the I don't want to say overused, but all the classic anomalies like 049, 096, every anomaly that's in that game are the fan favorites. They're fan favorites for a reason. And also there's also the angle that it's a video game adaptation, which helps the case when we're talking to industry people in the film industry, because you say that, and you say we're adapting a video game that is insanely popular, that perks ears up. So it's another more logistical reason to adapt Containment Breach. But I was telling Flames yesterday, when we were conceptualizing the project, it was between Containment Breach and What Happened to Site 13 for what we were going to adapt. And I really love What Happened to Site 13. It's one of my favorite SCP stories. And I hope that if we're able to pull this off, the next thing that we can do or help someone else do is an adaptation of what happened to Site 13. And yeah, I mean, really what we're trying to prove here is that, this is possible. So many people, with good reason, have sort of written off the idea of a full-length theatrical SCP Foundation movie. And it's, like I said, it's reasonable to do that. But we really want to challenge that and try to create a moment where more high-quality, big budget SCP adaptations can take place.
What happened to Site 13 is, of course, SCP-1730, a foundational, that's good, we're gonna see that pun a lot today, a foundational action movie-esque SCP, which does lend itself to being made into a film, with Mobile Task Force Tau 5, Samsara, the cyborg Power Rangers of SCP, and so there's a lot to that. That would be a very expensive movie.
Yes.
Next level, it's also very funny you say, being able to pitch this to investors as, it's an adaptation of a video game that benefits us. That's a very different story from 20, 30 years ago. Things have certainly changed over time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the industry is in a really interesting spot right now with this, the adjacent conversations around SCP, with, the Backrooms movie coming out next week, Obsession, a lot of YouTube native filmmakers making the jump to theatrical releases. Resident Evil from Zach Kreger is, in the pipeline, and it will be coming out, and people are hyped for that. So yeah, the conversation in the industry definitely has shifted where, things that were kind of unimaginable even 10 years ago are now like, hot topics in the industry. So that was another reason why we're like, okay, let's see if we can, turn the conversation around for SCP, because it's really just so foundational as a intellectual property, and also the community. I say, it's hard to imagine this moment in the film industry without the SCP Foundation and its lore and its community. So it has to be a part of this moment in the industry for sure.
And speaking on the YouTube to the internet horror to film pipeline, because as you said, we have Zach Kreger doing Resident Evil, just did Weapons recently, and Barbarian in the past before that. You've got Raka Raka doing Talk to Me. You've got, of course, Kane Parsons, Kane Pixels with the Backrooms. Now, all of these adaptations we've talked about so far lean very much into a very kind of serious horror vibe. That doesn't read to me what Containment Breach the movie seems to be going for. Where are you aiming your sights when it comes to the genre of a Containment Breach movie?
Yeah, so we've been developing the feature-length script on the assumption that we'll be able to make it, and we do really want to hit on it centrally being like an action sci-fi horror film. In the Kickstarter pitch video, the comps, as we say in the industry, are we're looking at films like Aliens, The Thing, even Jurassic Park. Like, these are films that I love and have hugely influenced me, as a filmmaker and as an artist. So we know that that's sort of an expectation from the fans. People want to see serious SCP horror. Now, the proof of concept short film has plenty of that. But the tone is a little bit more satirical and maybe not light, but less grimdark than I was preferring as a director at that point. So when we're thinking about the feature-length adaptation, I'm directing it, and I have a certain vision and things that I'm interested in as an artist. There will definitely still be satirical, humorous elements, but our vision from the start has been like, okay, in these first 10 minutes that you see in the proof of concept short, we're kind of massaging the audience into this world. And, it was conceived as a sort of welcoming thing where it's like, okay, I can get into this world, and it is quirky, like SCP Foundation. It's got a lot of humorous elements too. So we want to do justice to the horror sci-fi core, but also add in, our own artistic sort of proclivities in the set design. The proof of concept short is very colorful. I love working with color in previous films that I've done. Color is very important to me, and so is the humorous sort of tongue-in-cheek Kafkaesque elements that come with the Foundation. I mean, one of the plot points in the proof of concept short, and it will be a plot in the feature, is the Foundation. Our version of the Foundation is in a budget deficit, and they have a ton of money, but it's a very expensive business that they're working in. So the money's got to keep going. They gotta knock on the doors of senators and even the UN and the GOC. They'll have a representative in those budget meetings in the feature length film. So there's a lot of potential for me. What I'm interested in, like the bureaucratic elements of the foundation, and just the idea that an organization that's tasked every day with like saving the world at every moment, and at any moment if anything screws up, then that will be really bad. They also need money. So like, what does that look like? And I'm rambling a little bit at this point, but yes, sci-fi horror, tons of scares, excellent anomaly design, and then peppered in a little bit of more tongue-in-cheek satirical elements to sort of break up the tension. That's really where we envision putting those elements. They say it's funny that we were talking about Zach Kreger because he started in comedy with The Whitest Kids You Know, and often what's said in film is that horror and comedy are two very, very similar genres, because they both rely on tension and release. Tension of the build up to the scare, and then the downtrend of that emotion. And it's the same thing in comedy when you have the build up to a joke, and then you laugh and then say on to the next thing. So often people who can do comedy and people who can do horror can flip flop pretty effectively when they understand that.
Same with Jordan Peele, same with so many directors of our time. Speaking of you guys' vision, we're looking at a universe of the SCP Foundation that absolutely can't please everyone. Because one person's favorite SCP is the grimmest grimdark, and one person's favorite SCP is the lighthearted camp comedy. And so SCP Containment Breach has its own lore, with being an offshoot site, a storage facility for Site-19, for having this Dr. Maynard character, for D9341, and the Spiral Gestalt lore. What of that are you guys taking, and what are you going to be making your own different when you go into adapting Containment Breach a game?
Yeah, so we want to keep the two things highlighted from Containment Breach. We want to keep the core plot and the skeleton of the story as the Foundation at large is experiencing it. So, the plot, and again, this is a tough one because I don't want to give away too much of what we're planning, but the conspiracy with the Chaos Insurgency 079, being a sort of linchpin in that. Dr. Maynard is going to be, a pretty major character in the film as we plan it right now. So all of that is, and, the main D-class working their way through the Foundation, all of that. The way I'm phrasing it is we want to capture what it feels like to play Containment Breach, because it's a terrifying game. We want to capture that in the spirit of cinema and in the medium of cinema. So those two things anchoring the Containment Breach adaptation. When we're thinking about like what a feature film needs and what the medium needs as opposed to a video game, the Containment Breach game is pretty bare bones on the story you're actually experiencing, as you play it, and you're sort of piecing together, who D9341 is through things you find in the game, things you pick up, things you encounter. Really, on the flip side, what we want to accomplish with this too is we want to paint a very clear picture of the SCP Foundation at large too. So we're taking sort of the skeleton and the core really important elements of Containment Breach, and that's sort of our skeleton and our muscular system. And then we're adding in, elements that weren't in the game, plot points like the budget deficit subplot and the site director lead character as well, stuff that wasn't in Containment Breach at all. Make the case for SCP cinematic universe, to use a turn of phrase, and an important part of that is really demonstrating and capturing from the outset what the SCP Foundation is in as large a scale as possible conceptually for a more general audience. So, we it's important to us to leave room for extra lore from the wiki and roll that into the Containment Breach wiki.
So a lot of people are going to be asking the same question in several variations, which is, who's going to be in this movie? And so we can list 100 different actors, we can list 100 different SCP characters, both of which people are interested in. So tell me, of the character list who you are willing to divulge to the chat.
Yes, so the main D-class character, we considered what to do with that quite a bit. We went back and forth because, again, kind of what I was saying earlier, there are certain things in any video game adaptation that will need to change to suit the film medium. And it's my opinion that while D341 will almost definitely make an appearance in the film, in some capacity, he's probably not going to be just a cameo. He will be like a character that shows up, but he's not going to be the main character. And the reason for that is, one, it's my opinion that with the Spiral Gestalt and the respawn mechanic and the amnestics that they give the D-class in the Containment Breach game, so that he doesn't really know who he is, and he's discovering that he was a part of the Foundation, that to me, that would become like a character study. We would have to spend a lot of time away from the actual breach and the action, horror genre in order to fill 90 minutes of that story. So it and that's the genius of Containment Breach as a game, right? Like giving you a in-lore justification for the respawn mechanic and giving you a mystery that you, the player, are solving. With a film and a cinematic media, you're watching things unfold. You're not a part of it. So that's a problem that we felt like we needed to solve in order to tell this more grander scope of a story with, centering on the Containment Breach itself and the machinations of the Foundation and how the people who make up the Foundation are dealing with this problem and uncovering, the secrets of the conspiracy that led to the breach in the first place. So how do we solve that problem? We're changing the main D-class character to SCP-181, Lucky, who's a D-class who in the Foundation discovers that he's surviving all these experiments, and he shouldn't be statistically. So coming to the conclusion that he's got an anomalous luck, really. And we're like, okay, that is the perfect justification for how this character is able to survive so long into the breach when he's got all these odds stacked against him. And it really keeps the same spirit of the game of the D9341, but it's much better suited to the cinematic medium, in my opinion, and much better suited to the story that we want to tell in adapting Containment Breach. So that's the justification behind why we're and I know D341 is like super beloved and he's an iconic character. Again, he will be in the film, just not the main D-class character. And then also there's going to be another sort of main character, the as of to be decided site director of Site 19, who sort of was really focused on his responsibilities on this particular day running the budget meeting for the Foundation. And then, of course, he's got all these dignitaries and senators and officials who he's trying to get money from. And then everything sort of blows up in his face, and now he has to manage the expectations of those people while also making the case why they should, give him money, while also making sure that as many people survive the breach as possible and recontaining everything that's escaped. So, I mean, I just get so excited talking about that plot point specifically, because it's like, this character is going to be drawn in so many different directions, and he will be caught up in the breach himself, and he'll be in danger. And just seeing how that character is going to do everything that he needs to do and at what cost is going to be really fun and really satisfying. So as far as anomalies, expect all of the iconic ones from Containment Breach. Obviously, 173 is in our proof of concept short film, along with nods to a couple of others. And then also, again, we want to roll in more deeper cut wiki lore. SCP-689 is the other sort of big bad of the proof of concept short. So yeah, that's about it.
And I hear you designed that 173 that we see. That was you?
Yes, that was all me. If I can get to recording this weekend, I'm going to be recording a behind the scenes video, sort of from concept to completion, on how we put that together. The design for 173, the philosophy behind it, the inspirations, and then how we actually implemented it as a miniature on set, and also the CGI too, because there were CGI elements.
Very fantastic, but CGI, but not AI, I hear.
No, never No.
I've been so sad in the comments of several posts, people being like, "That old lady's face is definitely AI." God, that's just her face, man.
That grinds my gears so much because we spent 3 years of our lives and so much freaking money, and it spent a year in post production, and I was doing most of it myself, and I'm sitting here just like losing my mind as an artist, and then you drop it, and granted, it's not a lot of people, but when you see people who are like, "This is AI, this sucks," and it's like, it's literally not. Go watch the behind the scenes videos that we posted, across all platforms of us actually shooting the thing on set. I didn't spend all this time and all these resources for you to write it off as AI. That's my rant. I don't want to, get too negative, but it's just like, it's like, it's not what we're doing.
The feelings are there. The feelings are there.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the main character, D181 Lucky, with a little bit of 9341 in on the side quest. We've got our 173, our 079, our 689, who wasn't in Containment Breach the game, but now is making our way in. We have, for other Containment Breach anomalies, that would be your 106, your 049, your 939. There's a lot of anomalies in that game, to be frank. And so when we go over to the doctor side of things, do you have any plans for staff characters in mind besides D9341?
In terms of researchers and Foundation staff who are going to be in the film, a character called Dr. Theron Sherman is going to be in the film. Officially announcing that, yes, Sherm is on the team. He is going to be playing a on-screen supporting role as Dr. Sherman, and he is also joining the Keter Labs team in producing this film as a consulting producer. So he's going to be very close in helping us to, really flesh out this thing and make sure it's, authentic to the SCP lore, and really just like, having a huge creative role in the development of the film. So thank you so much, Sherm, for joining. It's huge. I mean, when we first, reached out to you before we even, released the proof of concept film, the Site 42 community has just been like a huge well of support and love and gratitude. So want to express that back to you guys, and it's an honor to have you on board, and it's going to be really fun if we get to do it.
First of all, tell me about your filmic background. What have you made in the past? Features, shorts, a little bit behind the scenes into your background, August's background in the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny. I was not trained as a filmmaker. I didn't go to film school. I went to art school, which is even worse. It's studying as a painter and a fine artist. And I only at the very end of college got into writing, and then followed that into screenwriting. So I've written like a ton of feature-length scripts, gotten coverage on most of them. Coverage is usually really positive. There was one year that I made it into the quarterfinals of the CineQuest screenwriting competition, which is like, even at the quarterfinal was a big deal. Like, it's a really good screenwriting competition. So that was awesome, and that was for a TV pilot. And after sort of my screenwriting era and really honing my skills with that, I got into making just like really low budget short films, music videos, just around stuff of my own making, stuff I made up. And if you search Zach Loda on YouTube, you can see some of that stuff. It's really fun. Some of it's from like 10 years ago. And then my big foray into feature filmmaking was a movie called He Who Lives in Hidden Lakes, very SCP inspired. And it's funny, I was when that project is when August and I connected, and he produced that feature film. Very low budget, really punk rock, like, we spent like 10 days shooting it straight, which is insane, but we were like in the woods for most of the time and batting away mosquitoes. I almost lost my eye. It was a whole story. But there's a behind the scenes video of that too. And the film is on Amazon Prime and Tubi, I believe, right now. So, but yes, that is sort of a creature feature mockumentary. It's got, sort of comedic elements, but also horror elements to it. It's really sort of a cerebral look into, really, it's how a meme becomes flesh. Really, it's a mockumentary about a cryptid who's living in a suburban forest preserve, but he might just be a bum. People don't really know what exactly it is, so people have all these interpretations of what this cryptid called the Hidden Man actually is. So the film sort of explores that, and it transmutates into, from a mockumentary style into a more, cinematic style as it goes on. And like I said, it was very, from the outset, influenced by SCP. I even considered submitting the Hidden Man concept to the wiki. I discovered and remembered that the Creative Commons license was sort of a blocker to that. So I immediately wrote that idea off, just going to be my own thing. And we went ahead and made the film. August has also produced a couple of feature films on his own. He just wrapped a short film, which I was on set for in Los Angeles, which he directed, and it's sort of an autobiographical thing about his mom and growing up. And it's I've seen it; it's really good. Like he did a bang up job on that thing. So yeah, we've been around, and we've worked in the film industry for probably over 10 years now. We edit, we dipped our toes into theatrical distribution a little bit, and I can't really talk too much about that. But we were sort of on the team of kind of a big franchise that had a theatrical release years ago. So I don't want to say that we're deep into the theatrical world, but we have brushed up with it, and we've been in it a little bit. So we bring some understanding to the theatrical distribution space too.
And you have made the claim in one of your video essays that you believe that theatrical runs for SCP films might be the only way for us to financially succeed in this, being that due to the Creative Commons. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so basically with Creative Commons, if you don't know, that's what all SCP content and derivative content must be licensed under. And really the crux of it is that as a creator, you're giving up commercial exclusivity when you create and release an SCP film or, a book or something like that, anything. So that's why studios ignore it, because they almost definitely know about it. They've made things that are inspired by SCP, Cabin in the Woods, you name it, but it's not SCP, right? Like we want to see an SCP story that's faithfully adapting the thing. But up until this point, it's been regarded as impossible. You can make one and release an SCP film, but as soon as it's online, someone is going to rip it and they're going to put it on their own YouTube channel. And then that, divides the attention and the revenue across many channels that the original creator can't capture, because you can't enforce copyright takedowns. Like you just can't do it. It's not legal under the Creative Commons license. However, this is the whole thesis of how we can get the industry in on financing or helping to finance a theatrical SCP film, whether it be this one or one in the future too. And that's the theatrical venue, because it's a real life event. You can't pirate a real life event, especially with the backing of the community. Like imagine an SCP movie with the hype on the level of the Backrooms movie coming out next week. I mean, it's hard to imagine that a theatrical distributor wouldn't see some return on investment in that. So if you front load the financial demand like that and convince a production company and a theatrical distributor that they will make money, they pretty much will, because people want to see this and they want to show up, and they can, on a modest budget to produce the film, they can make their money back with a reasonable expectation. And the way the theatrical industry works is that there's a very specific format that most major theatrical runs use, and it's called a digital cinema package, and it's a very specific, it's not a USB flash drive, although some films are exhibited that way. It's to get the best possible theatrical experience, you need to have a DCP. So if we have all those DCPs, we're the only ones sending them out to the theaters. The theaters aren't going to, they could share them, but they're not going to, because they want people to go to their theater to see it. They don't really have the incentive to share it in the way that, if Netflix put an SCP movie on their platform, HBO would be there at the drop, ripping it and then putting it on their platform. Much harder sell for someone, who it might be interested in financing a film. Whereas with theatrical, there's much more just like logistical hurdles that would need to be overcome, and incentive structures that just aren't there, that make a a theatrical, SCP event much more viable from a financial perspective, or at least that's the thesis. I mean, and it really feels like going back to the idea that there's this moment in the industry that makes it the perfect time to prove this to the world. Is if we had tried this maybe 5 years ago, maybe the fans would give the same level of support. We would all get behind it, but the industry wasn't at a point where they would consider it. The fact that SCP is so beloved and so huge, it's got such a rich lore going back decades at this point, almost 20 years, is a very strong selling point. Especially, I mean, the Backrooms is it's going to be A24's biggest theatrical opening of their entire history as a company. Probably. That's what people are saying. So
I've already got my tickets.
Yeah, the fact that it is the Backrooms, which is very hard to imagine the Backrooms being what it is without SCP. We've got a real pitch here to to try to get in on this era in the film industry.
And we're looking at, as we said before, you've got all of the YouTube horror makers. You've got the Backrooms going from 4chan to theaters. You've got the amazing Digital Circus putting its finale in theaters, which means that really not just that movies are making their way, but just theatrical adaptations are now taking more and more from the internet because you need something to get people in the door. And imagine what's going to happen after we get our first SCP feature. We get it in the door. We get it in the theaters. People go and see it because they're going to want to see this landmark event. And then how many stories are there in the SCP written universe that could easily be adapted? Any independent director like you, like anyone, can say, oh, this could be investment worthy. This could happen. The door will be kicked in, and I'm sure there's going to be a flood of it just as soon as it starts, once that faucet is open.
Yeah, like I always say, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, for those exact reasons.
When did you get into the SCP Foundation? When was your initial jump in?
It's been a part of my life for quite some time. Shortly after, it first got started in 2008, I was never a big 4chan guy, but I was sort of aware. I was in the creepypasta, world, and, SCP right out of the gate was just like a huge part of that. It was so enticing for middle school me. It was probably like, 13, 14, 15. That first 173 4chan post is just stuck in my mind. And then, Markiplier did his live streams of Containment Breach, or not live streams, it didn't exist yet, the Let's Plays. And I, like we were talking about, that was sort of a moment where like SCP really leveled up in the collective consciousness. And it also,
if you watch the listing of how many SCP articles were written by year, you can just see the Containment Breach lump.
Yep. Yeah, I have seen that chart. I was big into Halo and stuff, and like I said, Aliens and Jurassic Park. It's all sort of like, like this sci-fi with horror elements is just my bag. So it's always been something I've come back to.
What are your favorites of the SCP archive? Over 10,000 SCPs. There's got to be a couple that are the top of the heap for you.
I really, really love what happened to Site 13. I really wanted to adapt it, but like you said, it's just going to be a bigger budget. So we gotta start with a more sort of contained story. That's the one I always go back to, and these might be a little basic, but I really love the ones that are just like a weird object that does weird stuff, like me, the toaster. I'm a toaster. The self-replicating cake. Just stuff that like behaves weirdly in a way that it shouldn't. Is stuff I'm a sucker for. The vending machine where you type in whatever liquid you want and then it comes out. And yeah. Also, what I forgot that I always have found just like super terrifying is 303. And he actually, there's a little Easter egg in the proof of concept short where 303 kind of shows up. Not many people have found it, but take a look at the what that anomaly is and how he works, and showing up in the window and his sense of dread, and you can triangulate where he shows up in the film.
Oh, the doorman. We want to run down the Kickstarter. We want to run down its stretch goals. Why have you structured it the way you have?
Yeah, this is something that has come up, and we've added a fact on the frequently asked questions entry on the actual Kickstarter page. You might notice that the base goal for the SCP movie Kickstarter is $125,000, and under our stretch goal section, you can see that if we hit that, that allows us to do the next 10 minutes, continuing the 10 minutes we've already done. That's not a feature film. That's a 20-minute short film. The reasoning behind that is that we want to be very transparent and sort of responsible with the amount of funding that we're asking for versus, what we can actually accomplish at each potential financing level, each stretch goal. You'll see that subsequent stretch goals are like add another 10 minutes. That's 30 minutes, 40 minutes, which could be technically a feature film. So we really want to keep the door and the potential open for making this a success at any level of funding for the Kickstarter. What the most important thing to keep in mind is that even at that base goal, like we were talking about earlier, Kickstarter doesn't need to be the only financing path to the full-length SCP movie. We know that even $125 or $125,000, I would love to make a feature film for that much.
$125? Oh, no. I'll give you $350. It's okay.
Don't want to pretend that $125,000 buys a 90-minute feature film, because that would be insane. And we just talked about how we are not using AI, and we want it to look good and be human made, and feature films are super expensive. So no matter where the Kickstarter lands, it's super important that we hit that base goal, because that allows us to go to other financing sources, whether it be private investors, maybe even studios, grants, to say, look, there's real demand for this. People are financially supporting this already. Make up the difference. There's an opportunity here. So it's twofold, the way the stretch goals are structured and the base goal, because we don't want to set the base goal so high that people look at it and they're like, okay, well, they're never reaching that in the first place. 125 is still very achievable. So it's a balancing act between being upfront and responsible about what we can reasonably guarantee just from the Kickstarter funding, versus leaving the door open for the campaign to actually get funded, and then using that as leverage to enter into these conversations, no matter where the Kickstarter ends up, in saying, Mr. Investor, Mrs. Investor, you could help build on this and help make this happen.
Also, I am dearly hoping that we can get more community input on this than investors, if only because the community always is worried when it comes to Hollywood, when it comes to Netflix, that, oh man, while I would adore to have that kind of backing, we also worry about what the outsiders from the community trying to come in would do with the story, as opposed to someone who actually cared about the community as a whole.
Yeah, well, and actually SCP is uniquely advantageously positioned when we're talking about that conversation, because one, we've got the kickstarting the whole thing, and the fact that we're being so open and you're being so open and we're publicly involved in the community. Anyone who comes on board in that capacity is going to need to understand that this is sort of an open conversation in how to authentically adapt SCP, because that's the most important thing. I mean, if the fans aren't happy, no one's going to show up to the film, and then we failed. So, and that's different from more closed IP, like even the back rooms, where the fans are kind of on social media and they're talking, but the film is developed and produced completely behind closed doors, and oftentimes the IP is sort of already set and people own the IP, and sometimes even when fans have that reaction to changes made in other stuff, it's the actual IP owners or people who are involved in those companies that are making the calls directly to change certain things or do things in a certain way. And in the case of an SCP movie, that's one of the super advantageous things that it has going for it, is that fans will have real leverage in ensuring that we're doing the SCP Foundation justice in our adaptation.
And speaking of outside support, bringing in decentralized pictures, how did that connection happen? Where does this come from? What are you guys doing to work together on this?
Yeah, so DCP has been a great partner. We've known the folks who run DCP for a good handful of years now, and we sort of got connected through just our work in the general film industry. We got connected to Leo, the CEO, And if no one is familiar yet, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar, but got to plug it. Like one of our first stretch goal beyond the base goal at $150,000. If we hit that, we are going to put we're going to put up $20,000, and Decentralized Pictures is also going to put up $20,000 of grant money to host a sort of a competition of sorts, a grant competition on the Decentralized Pictures platform, where filmmakers from the community will pitch SCP short films, and between DCP and us as the Keter Labs team and the community voting on that platform, we're going to be greenlighting 2 of those SCP short film pitches with that grant money from the first stretch goal. So, I mean, I can't overstate how insane that is, that we were able to pitch this idea to DCP, and they were like, "Yeah, this is like, we see the opportunity here. This is great." And the fact that they would commit to, under certain conditions, just giving $20,000 of grant money to an SCP filmmaker. Like this is an actual indie film industry institution that was co-founded by members of the Coppola family and like really legit people in the indie film space. We need to be pushing that angle harder, I think, because that's just huge for the legitimacy of what we're trying to do with SCP, and it shows you that the door could be kind of opening to bigger budget SCP short filmmaking.
Exactly. I'm talking to short filmmakers all the time behind the scenes. Everybody has the project, but the problem with these projects is the budget, because filming is expensive, and without people who are willing to invest in SCP, we're all kind of cash strapped. And so this as an opportunity to get someone in the Hollywood sphere, a Hollywood nonprofit, saying, "Hey, you guys, we see you. We think you can mobilize. Show us what you got. This is our shot."
Yeah, I mean, DCP, they just spent the past week at the Cannes Film Festival, which is like the biggest film festival in the world. And they were there, and they announced their new streaming service. So they are legit, and they see the potential in SCP, and they want to help us out. But we gotta get to that number first.
Getting through the last of my questions here. We're done with serious business. We're on to the silly shit. Why did Markiplier call you an idiot?
He got me. I made him mad. And I'm not that sorry, because here's the thing. It's so funny. Go watch Power Wash Pals episode like 12 or something. His podcast replays Power Wash Pals. He called me an idiot. I don't think he wasn't directly talking to me like, "Zach Lona, you are an idiot." He saw the title and thumbnail to our open letter to him, asking him if we could open up a conversation in regards to him coming on board the cast for SCP Containment Breach the movie. And it really was my fault, because I didn't title that video very effectively. The original title was Open Letter to Markiplier, the SCP movie. Right now it's Open Letter Markiplier, we're making an SCP movie. Because what happened, as he explained it, was that he saw that title and thumbnail. He thought and assumed that this was a video where people were asking him to make an SCP movie. And that was not the proposal. But he didn't click on the video, somewhat understandably. And he's like, well, you can go watch the Power Wash Pals podcast. But that is why he called me an idiot, because he's like, "Don't tell me what to do. I need a break. I spent all this money. Don't tell me to make an SCP movie," even though that's not what we were actually proposing. We're making the SCP movie, and we would still love to have him aboard. I mean, I'm wearing my Iron Lung shirt right now, coincidentally. Still big fan. I don't take it personally. Like he's got to deal with a lot. He doesn't know.
He's busy.
Yeah, exactly. So I people are saying like, "Oh, I wish Markiplier said no." He didn't say no. He didn't say no to the actual yes or no to the actual proposal. We don't know if he's seen the actual proposal yet to see if he's interested in possibly joining the cast. So
if anything, he said no to making his own movie, which means there's less competition for your movie. So
yeah,
honestly,
exactly.
That's a bonus.
Yeah. So I wouldn't count on it, but I also wouldn't count it out.
Hopefully, Markiplier down the line finds out the truth of this scenario.
Yeah, I would appreciate that.
For the Kickstarter roles, where these people are going to get to do voice lines and or be a walk-on extra in the film. Now, I do believe those are already all taken up, right?
Yep. We had three voice lines and 3 walk-on extras, and those are all gone now.
How much say are they going to have in what they're doing? What character will they be? Do you have in mind for them? I think some of them are mobile task force members or something.
Well, that's kind of the just the title of the tiers. So we're thinking like, okay, like these are like experiential things. You are our mobile task force. That said, I think it might depend. I mean, really, what we want to make clear is that priority number 1 is making a great film. So we have very specific ideas on how to do that. We're also definitely open to fun ideas that our collaborators might have, especially from the Kickstarter. So we want to make sure that those folks are feeling really good and proud of their part in the movie. But how it will probably go is we will probably come at them with an idea, and then just kind of like workshop it from there. It's like, okay, we have this sequence where an extra can plug in here and interface with such and such possible list of SCPs that would fit in this dramatic scenario. What do we think about that? And then just kind of workshop it from there. But just to be clear, like we will have sort of the final say, but we want you to be happy with and really proud of your part in the movie too. Not everyone is going to be able to back it financially. That's totally fine. If you do want to still support and boost the project, you got to share it. Tune into Sherm's live streams, subscribe to our YouTube channels, just like engage. We need the algorithm to favor us. We need the algo gods to, pick us up and swoop us away. And we need to set that up as much as possible. And that's where you guys really come in. At a very fundamental level is just like keep sharing, keep engaging, share it with your friends, repost across platforms. Just every little engagement helps. If you're someone who wants to share this project on the Reddit, I just ask you to not come off as too, self-promotional, or just kind of be friendly and organic, and make it a constructive conversation, around like the art and the lore, and try not to be so promo-y, because there's a different culture on that platform that you have to respect, and we want to respect that. We don't want any sort of unauthorized messaging reflecting badly on the project or like on us, because it's been tough to get into like a self promo mode just as a person and as an artist. But like at a certain point, like, yeah, you need to. What I've learned is that if you don't ring your own, toot your own horn to a certain extent, especially now with just algorithmic slop just flooding every platform, like you need to do what you can to stand out, especially if we have like a mission driven thing here where it's not just about us, it's about making something happen for like this entire community and this entire fan base and all the creators who helped get it to the spot. I mean, that makes me feel a lot better about like taking a little bit more direct salesy approach, which is not in my nature at all. So yeah, it's a delicate thing, but I like to think generally that it's been more effective than we anticipated.
One thing I can tell you guys from personal experience is you're going to be better off a lot of the time with about 80% algorithm engagement versus 20% actual posting to communities. Posting on your own social media feeds, Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, God rest us all. How many? There's too many. But when you post them on your own profile, you're posting them to your community, even if you have like 100 followers, that still gets it in the algorithm as existing. The phrase SCP Containment Breach the movie gets in the algorithm. And so between liking and reposting what Keter Labs is doing and posting your own things rather than posting specifically in Discord groups, in Reddit groups where the communities have rules and are a little more tight-knit and are trying to filter out spam, What you're doing is you're getting the algorithm to do the work for you rather than purposefully posting. It's the same way that the Paul brothers blew up, is they kept sending their fans back and forth with their little rap battles, and they kept getting more and more comments and engagement, and that was natural growth according to the algorithms. On the same thing, is there anything, Zach, in particular you would like people to be saying about the film when they are posting things?
A lot of what people have posted already, especially on like, Twitter and stuff like that, have just been like, this looks amazing. I mean, we put so much work into illustrating our vision for the film, and obviously it's evolved a little bit since then as we look towards the feature-length version. But man, we just poured our heart and soul into that 10 minutes, and it was just a ton of work. So, I think if people see that, like, oh, this is, an actual thing, it's low budget, but it looks really good. The performances are great. Anything that will signal to people that this is, this is a legit project with legit filmmakers behind it. They've already, showed what they can do. And, I think that it's worth, backing and sharing and stuff like that. I would definitely keep it, not all the time, but maybe center it on, like, the proof that we've tried to supply. If you think that it's enough and it resonates with you. And the most important part, I think, is authenticity.
Authenticity, I was about to say the exact same thing, which is making it about your personal likes, even dislikes in a comment, as long as it's, the SCP Foundation is an arts community built on critique. So we all know it's not going to be perfect, and what can be done better in the future is fair game. But your personal thoughts and excitement are so much more important to a comment and a post than just a little random thing that could have been written by an AI bot that people will see it and just wipe it past their eyes, not pay attention. So that kind of authenticity can be a great help. Do you have any preferences, regulations, rules when it comes to making edits of the movie or trailer for those who are making film edits and song edits and stuff like that?
Look, it's released under the Creative Commons. You could do whatever you want with it. You can make an edit. People have already made edits. There was someone from Italy who reached out to us a couple months ago who was asking for permission to do an Italian fan dub of the proof of concept short film. And we're like, you don't need our permission at all, but it's great that you reached out because we can give you the audio stems, so you can make your dub. So whatever you want to do with the materials we've released is fair game. People have already done a ton of amazing edits. I mean, Flames has been posting edits of the film on his TikTok, and it's in the video he posted that we talked about at the top of the hour. So I mean, the more of that we can get going, if it creatively speaks to you and it's a project you want to sort of put together, definitely, by all means, and let us know, like in our Discord or wherever, and we'll boost them because we love to see them for sure.
Keter Labs Discord server, make sure you're finding your way there, people. And on that same note, remember, Creative Commons 3.0 share-alike license. So that means that once you make your edit, all you got to do is credit Keter Labs, link to the original video that you're making the edit of, and then release your work via the same Creative Commons license. Are you keeping the Keter Labs Discord 18+, or are you going to keep it clean enough that minors can join in? Do you have the moderation to handle such a thing?
Yes. So admittedly, August and I are not the biggest Discord users. We're still kind of learning the platform. We did just crown Dr. Alexander Knox in our Discord, our inaugural mod. So join the Discord, but it's a little bit, we're getting it up and running still. And I think that's not really something we had considered yet. As far as the age limit, I know the SCP Wiki Discord has is 18+. The site is 18+. So we probably want to follow through with that. But at the same time, it's like I got into SCP when I was 13. So I do want to be sensitive to younger fans who maybe shouldn't be engaging with it, but they're going to anyway. That's just how the internet works.
Everybody is wondering what SCPs are in this movie. You don't have to answer these because they would be spoilers. I just want you to hold the best face you can, and any twitches will be taken as a yes or no answer. Will SCP-953, the polymorphic humanoid, otherwise known as the Kumiho, be in Keter Labs' SCP Containment Breach the movie?
Maybe.
Will SCP-999, the tickle monster, be in the Keter Labs' SCP Containment Breach movie?
Prognosis is good.
Oh, that's better than maybe. Will SCP-426, I Am a Toaster, be in the movie?
Probably not, but if it does show up, it'll be like a little gag thing that there's going to be a ton that are going to be like, just quick things, quick cameos in the background, or, stuff that fans will appreciate, but don't like, because at the same time, it's like again, the biggest priority is making a faithful adaptation in a good film of SCP Containment Breach. We're not going to be able to fit in like every idea that everyone has for which SCPs are included. We really want to have intention behind what we're putting in, but there's going to be a lot of room as we're traversing the facility to see and give nods and give flowers to the deep cuts in some capacity or another.
All right, you're slowing down my rapid fire though. Quicker answers. Sorry. Will 049 be in the movie?
Yeah, absolutely.
Will 035 be in the movie?
Absolutely.
Will there be a Little Caesars pizza box to represent SCP-458, the Infinite Pizza Box, in the movie?
That's very easy to do. Actually, no, it's not, because Little Caesars is we can't have
product placement, exactly.
No, yeah. Unless they pay us for that product-based placement, which is another avenue for financing, which
Little
we have
Caesars,
thought about.
We're calling you out.
All right, so we'll put a pin in that.
Alto Clef be in the movie?
Possibly. There's a possibility that he could be the leading site director role. No promises. We're still, figuring out what that character specifically is. But he is a contender.
And will SCP-527, Mr. Fish, be in the movie?
No, I'm not familiar with that one.
It's a guy whose head is a fish and wears a top hat. He's Mr. Fish. His only power is being Mr. Fish.
I'll have to read the entry on that one to decide. But I'll be honest, probably not. Probably doesn't fit the tone of the film.
And the very last one I'll ask about, because Dr. Frogman requires it, because his name is literally Dr. Frogman. SCP-8012, Wigglebert the Great, the Frog Wizard. A frog with a wizard hat. Put him in a jar. I don't care.
Maybe.
Wigglebert! Wigglebert King, rise up! All right, Zach, thank you very much for joining us on today's stream. Any last words before you sign you off and get you to your video essay work?
Just thank you. Thank everyone who's here. Thank you for all the backing and the support behind the Kickstarter, whether financially or otherwise. Thank you to the entire community, because it's so encouraging to see, that this is actually something that people want. It makes us feel like we haven't wasted the past 3 years of our lives putting this together.
Thank you very much for joining us today, Zach. You have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Look out for the Backrooms video tomorrow morning, everyone, because that will be going live.
Amen and cheers. Catch you next time, brother.
See ya.